Here.
Terry Walker,
Here.
Doug Bruner,
Here.
and I don't see.
We got Randy swinging on the phone.
Okay, yeah, I don't see him. Randy Swingen.
Here.
Okay, all present.
Okay, and unfortunately, we won't be able to do the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. I'm in a good spot to do that, and I don't have a flag. So we'll open up the meeting to public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the committee on any issue not on the current agenda. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the committee encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Do we have any public comment? I'm not hearing any public comment. Anyone else? Tony?
No public comment for me.
So approval of the minutes from the March 3rd, 2020 Public Safety Committee meeting. Do I have a
Move approval.
Whoever made that motion, if you could just identify yourself so that we can get that for the record, please.
Doug Browner, I'll make a motion to approve.
And Randy will second the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then we'll move on to the report of the first responders. We can start with Erica.
Sure. Obviously, things have been really busy with COVID and all of that. We've just been staying pretty fluid with everything. We haven't been hit hard by people going into quarantine or anything like that. Knock on wood, we haven't transported any COVID positive patients via ambulance yet. It probably will happen, but we have precautions in place. We've updated just more in-depth decontamination of the ambulance and equipment. We've found some new supplies to use because the wipes that we normally use to clean stuff, everyone needs them and we can't buy them anymore. So we're just having to branch out and find some alternative solutions, which has been fine. We are fully stocked on PPE, and the county is still working very hard to make sure not only EMS and fire and police, but also nursing homes within communities have enough PPE and that they are being taken care of as well. And once Wisconsin starts to open back up, I know like dental offices and some other places who maybe donated PPE to first responders are starting to need some return to them. So the county is kind of the one-stop shop for all of that. So everyone should be just making requests to them if they need anything. Otherwise, they can come through us and then we'll get PPE reimbursed through the county as well. So
Okay.
That's pretty much it, unless anyone has any questions about COVID, but I know information's been flying around everywhere. So I feel like we'd all have the same numbers and information, but.
Okay. Great. We can move on to fire. Crowbait, do you guys have anything?
Just nothing major lately. We just had a few accidents, couple car accidents, couple small fires. Nothing major, so we're all good. Nobody's sick here. Wiping everything down after every call just to keep everything clean. So nothing major.
Perfect. Great. How about the chief?
Well, we are fully stocked with PPE. We're using a lot of social media to educate the public as we get information about COVID-19. We're putting it out there right away. I don't have anybody that is ill or shows any signs of anything with COVID. We are following the guidelines that are recommended. to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and our community. We have seen a spike in social gathering violations. We're starting to receive some complaints about that, social gathering within homes and things like that. So again, we're using social media, the newsletter, and casual contacts to just remind people that the order is still in effect at least until May 26th, unless it changes. The other thing that we are really hitting hard is the mental health. This happens to be, May happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month, so we're doing a lot of just resource gathering for people. I'm sure people are starting to get a little depressed and upset over the fact that they can't leave their homes. So we're doing a lot of that right now. That's about it from us.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so we'll move on then to our committee discussion. Discussion and possible action regarding placing red flags on stop signs on Church Street and Finnis Street.
Lori, I put this on the agenda. It was brought up a couple months ago. I don't know if it's still a hot topic. It's been 2 months or even better that sign was removed. We haven't received any complaints about that area, but I don't know if we want to still address that. I just put it on because I was asked to keep it on the agenda.
I personally don't think it's necessary.
I would agree, Doug. I don't think it's necessary at this point. It would have been nice to do it right away, but at this point, people have gotten probably used to the fact that that has been removed from there.
I know there's
Yeah, I
less
think we
traffic,
talked about
but I go
3
that
months.
way quite a bit. I haven't seen any issues.
We should have probably made a vote. Do we need to make a motion for the discussion of each item, or how are we going to discuss? Sorry, my
I don't know
fault.
if we
Should
could just
we
say
make a
no
motion?
action necessary or take a vote.
Yeah, I don't think you need to make a motion unless we're taking action. So we can just, as a consensus, say no action necessary on that topic and move on.
I'd agree with that.
I'll agree.
I'll agree.
Me too.
Okay, we're all good.
Okay.
Item number 2.
That item was brought up by Kevin a few months ago. I think I might have written something wrong because there is a four-way stop signs
Yeah.
at that location.
Yeah,
Unless I misunderstood something.
Sure. Yeah. No, there is a four-way stop, and my concern was over people running the stop sign frequent basis. And some of the concern, a little bit less while the pool's closed, but there are a lot of kids that come down Valley, come down Lewis Street down the hill and kind of just fly through the stop sign. And it's usually, when I see people running the stop sign, it's usually on Valley.
Yeah.
Southbound is where I see it most often. So it's something to keep an eye on. I fear it's going to happen at some point if it hasn't already. I haven't heard that it has, but I'm over there often on that corner since we have my mother-in-law and we have property on that corner. So they noted almost daily that someone runs that stop sign, and I've seen it all week. Like each weekend, I'll see at least one person run that stop sign. So
I would have to agree.
Just a comment.
I would have to agree that that intersection is pretty busy, and I think with kids now riding their bikes quite a bit, they like that hill, which could make it, cars running the stop signs and a lot of kids and just families out on bikes. When I walk that, I've seen some little kids run the stop sign coming down Lewis.
Right.
I've spent a lot of time on patrol the last couple months and just monitoring traffic, and we have a lot of speeding in a lot of our streets. We have a lot of stop sign violations in a lot of our streets. So I've been letting the officers know that that's stuff that they need to be monitoring, and we are making traffic stops on those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any ideas proceeding with what to do there? Or Tony, is that something that you think you should just patrol more and
Yep.
do what's necessary?
Yep, I think so. I think it's something we can monitor, and I'll send out an email again tomorrow as a reminder and letting the officers know your wishes on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, from my perspective on that, it seems like it occurs, at least I'm hearing that it occurs most often on weekends, which tells me it's more likely non-residents who don't know that it's a four-way stop, and
Sure.
they're just cruising along Valley and kind of just blow right through it, because there's usually not brake lights. It's not someone braking and coasting through a stop sign. It's full speed right on through. So
Okay.
in that case, patrolling might help, but if they're patrolling and seeing that, maybe it's the thing where you need some flags on there.
What I meant by patrolling would be actually monitoring the stop sign. Like being on patrol would be also stationary in that location or immediate vicinity, so they can watch it for a while, especially on the weekends.
Yep, great.
So no action on this item either. We'll just kind
Yeah, I'm
of
fine
monitor.
with that.
I would agree.
I agree. We'll leave it to the chief.
And I
Yeah.
would just agree observing that there are a lot of people that either don't stop or roll through stop signs. Might be
Yeah,
time to get more than a warning.
It's happening all over.
Correct.
Okay, we can move on to item number 3. Discussion and possible action regarding a stop sign on Bourbon Road and Continental Lane. I drove by there again today. I'm not over there a lot, but I feel that there's the crosswalk which connects to the path that goes down behind the fire station. And the other time I was over there, it was dark out. And I actually, if I wouldn't have seen the person, I would have hit them because they were dressed in dark clothes. That area is dark. I think something needs to be done with it, just with all of the kids and the people out, and I think it is a safety issue. And Tony, this is probably going to be more of a question for you, but would it be possible to have, I've seen on bike paths and walking paths where they'll have little yield signs or little, I don't know that I've ever seen a stop sign, just so people are aware that there's a busy road ahead. Is there anything like that? I know when I was discussing this with Bill a little bit, he thought maybe that, because pedestrians always have the right of way, and that would probably be the case there.
Yeah, maybe like some of those signs that go kind of in the middle of the street that kind of flat back and forth, and they say pedestrian crossing.
Well, that would be a great idea. I didn't think of that. I was thinking more when the people are getting to the end of the trail, that path that goes back there, that they know that they can't just keep fly through there, kids, that they have to stop because a car just isn't going to see them to the left there, especially if the grass is tall. Just letting them know that there's a road ahead, because you can see the crosswalk, and I don't know if you're not really paying attention or if you came from the other end and you don't know where this path is going to, that it could even be something like 3 feet before you get to the road that there's a stop sign ahead or something like that. To have a flashing pedestrian walk, I guess those cost about $20,000.
Yeah.
which, you know, with everything going on with the COVID and everything, I don't know that the village has that kind of money. But if we could put a cone, I think that would be a great idea. Does anyone else have any thoughts? We should probably make a motion for this for discussion.
Lori, this is Bill. There is a comment in the chat box saying from Seth Johnson, suggesting consideration of advanced crosswalk warning signs.
If can you guys hear me? I can jump in on that.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Seth.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, I know what you're talking about with the flashing beacons, but even just a yellow diamond warning sign at the crosswalk with an arrow pointing at the crosswalk to indicate to drivers that there is a crosswalk there. Right now, there's that fire station warning sign right at the path.
Mm-hmm.
You could consider installing a crosswalk warning sign there, you know, just to highlight that there's a crosswalk here to drivers. It wouldn't solve the problem of pedestrians and bikes going out without looking, but
So if I could ask a question, so a flashing warning sign that's a crosswalk costs about $20,000, is that what I heard?
Yeah, I guess with the ones where you push the button, like what they have on Main
Yeah,
Street.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Then the next question is, I know we talked about this at a couple of meetings, but Chief, did you spend some time over there? Do you have any observations of that area?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on Bourbon Road. People speed. It's basically the outlet for Highway 14. So it depends on the hour. I made a few traffic stops to slow people down, and while I'm there, people are probably a lot more mindful, and I was still able to make some traffic stops. So I think when we're not there, they definitely probably fly through there. But I think I've heard it a couple times, even in this discussion, and with some of my other coworkers and other professionals. You can't really use stop signs to slow people down. It doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work at all. So I think that crosswalk sign might be a way to start. I mean, we could maybe make a motion to do that and pass that on to the village board for final approval.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with that.
Well, there's a stop sign at, I think that it's at Hillebrand, the street
Yeah.
just before Continental.
Yes.
Is the stop sign at the wrong place now? Should it be on Continental instead of on Hillebrand?
Oh.
I don't know. People do
Put
stop
that
at the
outlet
stop
in
sign.
there.
It's obvious because of the flashing light.
Right.
Would that be a good idea? Maybe that stop sign, who determines that? Or is it something, Tony, that you guys have to monitor?
As far as like moving it,
Yeah.
I think it could be something that would be motioned here and then requested from village board, and then I think it's our sign, so I think we could probably move it.
So I would say minus the daycare center, which is right there at the crosswalk or at the stop sign now, minus the daycare center, now that the trailhead for the path is closer to the fire station, it does make more sense. We likely would get some pushback related to the daycare and then, you know, it's been there for a long time, that stop sign.
So this is Bill. If I could interject here, we had discussed this some time ago whether or not there should be another stop sign and whether or not that was in the wrong place. And my understanding was because two things: one, the sidewalk transitions from the south to the north there, and then also there is a park there. And that's my understanding of why it was initially put it at that intersection and not the Continental intersection.
That's a good point on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
I think Seth Johnson had a question. I caught a piece of it. We were still working with UW to have a count on that street, but with COVID, everything kind of shut down. So We don't have any of the results yet.
Is Cross Plains Fire? Hello?
Go ahead, Crow.
I think I saw one
Okay,
for
yeah.
fire
I
department.
lost for a minute there. I went down, my computer went down. So I missed some of that. As the Crossfire Fire Department feels, we'd rather leave it the one where it is due to not having another one. Because of us coming right out of the driveway, it'd be pretty close. Because, you know, proximity of us leaving the driveway and getting going versus stopping right away. You know, we not that we stop, but it's the people are going to keep walking, and we're a little concerned about that.
Mm.
You know, that they're thinking it's a stop sign. They might continue walking. Where we get up to the other one, they're not continue walking. You know, we can see them for a distance already. You know, when we're pulling out here, we're just getting going and kind of watching for traffic a little bit. We're really not watching for pedestrians, and we're afraid they're just going to walk out if there's a stop sign there.
Sure.
Well,
Versus,
I think at a minimum, we should go ahead with warning signs that there's a crosswalk ahead to start the process. But
Mhm.
COVID-19 has turned everything upside down. I still think we should do a traffic count on that road to really get an idea of the volume and speeds. And that's down the road because everything is upside down right now.
Okay.
I think Tony said he actually did the count, but he just hasn't come back yet.
Tony, we didn't start the count that was supposed to happen, correct?
I think it's complete. I just think that they're collecting the data, and with COVID, with the university shutting down, we weren't able to get the report.
Okay.
Okay.
So I predict that once they open up, you know, they'll take that back up and we'll get some kind of finding.
So we should probably make a motion on this one. It sounds like to move forward with a yield sign and possibly are putting the cone with pedestrian crossing. Would someone like to make a motion for that?
Randy I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I'd like to clarify though
Yep.
what those are, because we've talked about a few things here. We heard the advanced crosswalk warning sign, which is a warning sign to drivers that a crosswalk is ahead.
Yeah.
Then we also talked about for pedestrians a yield sign, meaning you know, heavy traffic. So I just want to make sure, is this traffic for the traffic or is it for the pedestrians?
I thought the motion was for both.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's what I wrote down.
I think my thought was a yield to pedestrian sign on Bourbon Road.
Okay.
That was my second too, was the advanced crosswalk warning signs for drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be definitely one of the two that I would be in favor of. And then the second one was for pedestrians, or did we also talk about putting a cone or some type of bolted or, you know, fixed pylon type cone in the center, you know, those flex ones?
I like that idea of having that. That's what I was motioning, is for the yield sign at the crosswalk, and then for that cone or something adhered to the pavement in the road that it's a pedestrian crossing.
That flex one is very visible because it'll be pretty tall and it's thin, that goes right in the middle, but I mean, you can't miss it. And that kind of warns people that, you know, that they should be watching for that crosswalk.
This is
I would include that in my motion.
I would too. Yep.
Okay, so we're looking for an advanced crosswalk sign for drivers and a yield for pedestrian crossing right in the middle, like that cone type device?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Bill. Just a quick question for fire. With that cone in the road there, is there going to be enough turn radius?
Coming back, when we drive in the back way, yeah, it's gonna be in the way when we come back. By all means, coming from that direction to turn in, because some of our rigs coming around the back side, so it's gonna make a tight radius to get in. I don't think we'll be able to make it as close as that sidewalk, that cone will be to the driveway. Normally, they would swing right about on the line to get in there. Yeah,
Maybe we can do the advanced crosswalk as the motion and the starting point, and then have the traffic count and the information from the fire department for the next one.
Yeah, we have a power sign there that we can turn on for like us, but well, not that we ever used it. The state put it in originally, to indicate, for the fire department pulling out. We only had a couple remotes and one of them died already, so we never really used them. But the state put those in when that got used as Highway 14. I don't know if they could be advanced or somehow made into the use for you guys.
So Lori, this is Bill. Maybe, and this is just a recommendation, but I know that there's been a motion and a second made on the table here.
Yep.
But a suggestion for staff to work with the fire department to make sure that whatever signages that are put out there, that it's working with the fire department and not against them.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree.
So we should change that motion and probably take out the cone for the middle of the road. Since
Or
that's,
have staff study it.
yeah. And do the advanced crosswalk. And then maybe we could talk about doing, seeing if we could change the signage with the remote to help flash or do something.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I'll take want me to take a stab at making a motion on this?
Absolutely.
Just can I interject here quickly? So there is a motion and a second. I think you guys should vote the initial motion down, and then clarify the motion in a new motion. That makes sense. So we've
Yes.
talked a lot about different things here. I think
Yep.
it would just clear up if the commission votes it down and then come up with a clear motion just to clean it up.
Okay. So would someone like to make the motion?
It's already been made by Randy and Doug. So we'll just
We should just vote no on it. If you want to call the question.
Okay. So,
Well, can I withdraw the motion?
You can.
Then that's what I'll withdraw the motion at this point, and we'll start over.
I'll withdraw my second.
I'll make a new motion. This is Kevin.
yeah.
And that motion's going to be to put advanced crosswalk warning sign in and to await the findings from the traffic study, which will help guide other research or other work done by the fire department to look at the turn radius and explore other options related to crosswalk solutions.
I'll second that. Randy will second.
Okay.
Lori, you want to call for a voice vote on that?
A roll call vote?
Or just a
No, just-
voice vote, just all in favor?
All in favor?
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same?
Okay, so what I will do is I will prepare this to move on to full village board.
Okay. So then we'll move on to item number 4. Discussion and possible action regarding diagonal parking partially in the row on Wilson Street.
I just left that on there. I was asked in February to follow up on that. I did. I met with the owner at the bowling alley, and we have that matter resolved. No action would be needed on this item.
Okay. We will move on to number 5, discussion and possible action regarding speeding on Tilda Trail and Gills Way.
Again, this is another item that was just like the other one in February. I did sit out there, and while I was out there, people were slow. This is one of the locations where I asked UW to study for us, since when I'm sitting out there, people slow down. So I don't think we need any action. I think there's just a consensus that we have speeding and we have stop sign violations throughout the community. My department is well aware of it, and we are making traffic stops and enforcing the laws in those areas.
Yeah, I would agree. Probably no action needs to be taken. Just observing, it seems like it's our friends and neighbors that are some of the biggest violators, especially when we're in the neighborhoods.
I think what happens is that people are so used to driving those roads that they don't, they're just not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Need a little safety course for everybody.
Right? Okay. So Tony will watch.
Yeah.
We can move on to number 6 is discussion and possible action regarding a village dog leash ordinance.
Okay, what I included in the packet was the animal control ordinance that exists within the village. This is our ordinance. There are certain areas where dog leashes are required, but we do not have a full village ordinance that regulates dog leashes.
So I think that this has become a big issue of people not leashing their dogs. And unfortunately, there are the people whose dogs mind them, and they do have, the equipment where they don't need them on the leash. But there are more people whose dogs are running after people who are walking and after their dogs. And I have gotten an email where a dog ran after someone's child at the park. And the dog was friendly, but it scared the child. So I think dogs just need to be leashed if they're in the village and they're being walked.
As far as the police department, in the last 3 weeks, we've handled 2 dog incidents where the dogs got loose from their owners and attacked a dog, attacked another person. One of them was actually a bite. They actually bit the dog, bit the person. So I think with more people walking around, we're just going to have escalated incidents, but people are walking dogs and they're not leashing them throughout the community. And we've had a couple incidents, at least in the last 3 weeks.
I agree with what you're saying. And the same token, the parks already got the leash law, so if they're not obeying the leash law in the parks, I think that's an issue that should be handled. But to make it, my problem is with the whole thing is I do have my dog off the leash lot, but I go over my neighbors And anytime I would leave my lawn, and my dog would go play with the neighbor's dogs, I'd be in violation in that law.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big thing to me because, like I said, my dog well behaves, and I do put mine on the leash when I meet people. I do put it on the leash when I meet other dogs, and wait until I get by. I know it feels like it. The ones that we can train our dogs are getting penalized for somebody that can't train their dogs. I just feel bad about that. I've had a dog for almost 40 years in the village and never really had an issue. So,
And I totally get that, Kurt. I mean, I love it when my dog can run also. And I'm sure you're well aware because you walk your dog the same areas that I walk mine.
yep,
There are an abundance of dogs
yep,
that are not leashed and
yeah,
they're out of control. And unfortunately, it does wreck it for the people who obey. But I think a dog can do serious damage to a child and another adult. And I think we have to look at, it's part of living in the village now, and that more people have animals. And I think, elderly people are walking, and I've seen dogs jump up on elderly people and almost knock them over. I am really think we need to have the discussion of having them leashed.
I also think we've evolved somewhat as a village. Dogs didn't used to be allowed in parks. Now they are. We know there's been a need for a dog park that we haven't been able to get yet. I think the signage is inconsistent, and I think a lot of people probably don't even know what the village ordinance or law is. So I think we want to be consistent and fair. To me, all the public parks, dogs should be leashed. I don't know, state law or what the village law should be around streets and sidewalks and that piece, but for sure the parks, there's different signage and some with none. The dog feces pickup is another thing of just kind of not being common courtesy. I know Chief Tony's talked a lot about, and I'm excited about community policing. I think, some officer presence both on a bike and or even just kind of walking the parks, and kind of double checking signage, maybe working with Mike Anderson just to make sure we're consistent. And really work to communicate that piece. I no longer own a dog, but I certainly enjoy and like dogs and have one in the past. And I just think over the last few years, our village has changed. So we might want to, as a public safety committee, be really clear about what exactly the rules of law are right now and really work to enforce that, then see what needs to be adjusted.
The village law is already in place for parks, and that's already being enforced in parks. So if we get a complaint or we see a violation, it's taken care of in the parks. This is specifically dealing with a full village dog leash ordinance, which means would include outside of the parks.
Yeah, just to clarify, Tony, on that, that's in any village space, right? So streets, sidewalks. Again, I just want to clarify, this is not in private yards.
No,
Okay.
you couldn't regulate that, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah, this would be just private property or public property.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like I said, right now we already have an ordinance that regulates the parks. All dogs must be leashed in parks, and there is new signage in certain locations. Mike Axon is taking care of that. It is visible, it is enforced. I've talked about it, like, again, on social media and the newsletter, casual contacts. I mean, we're spreading the word out about the parks, but now we're getting incidents outside of the park, on regular city streets. I mean, people are walking because they have nothing better to do. So you have a lot more people out. And so we've had some escalated incidents of dogs. I'm not sure that, that we need a dog leash law, but that would be a way to regulate it. If we had, a law that prevented people from having their dogs off leash, while they're walking them, it would probably curb all these complaints that we're getting.
I think I walk my dog often, a couple times a day we're out, and yesterday I encountered 2 people even within the park unleashed. Um, it poses kind of an uncomfortable situation, of course, when your dog is on leash, and majority are, but some people who are entering the boardwalk or are on the boardwalk have not, do not have their dog on leash, and when they see you, you'd think that they would attach it, not knowing what the dog's, an owner's comfort level is. But it is kind of amazing how some people just ignore that even within the parks. Which I know there's chatter on online on moms and dads across plains. This is a topic that's on there, and people are discussing it. So it's a relevant time, and I think it's being accented right now, of course, with the amount of time people are spending within the village with their animals. So I don't think it's going to get any worse than it is right now, but we should figure out either how to enforce better, at the point of entry into these parks, or we're going to have to just blanket where people can clearly understand that anytime you're outside of your own private property, your dog needs to be leashed.
Definitely a full leash law would be a lot easier to enforce. Even in the parks, if an officer is approaching in a car or even, they're going to go down to the dog and play with it and leash it up. I think people are being, just defiant, to let their dogs loose. I mean, most people want to run their dogs and things like that, but we don't have a dog park that allows for that. So I think people are just being defiant, and when you're in the area, they're not going to violate the laws. Similar to the feces law, very rarely do we find someone just their dog, goes right on the sidewalk and then people leave it. If we drive by, they're cleaning it, and we're monitoring that. So it's probably at the time where we probably need to discuss a full leash law, so that way it's easier. So either you have it on your leash or not when it's on public property.
So I think we need to make a motion. We could probably combine the dog feces and the leash in one. Is that possible?
Well, the dog feces is already there is already an ordinance for that. So we've issued citations for that.
Okay.
So I think right at number 8 is what you're discussing. That's just to discuss the complaints. We're definitely getting a lot of complaints on that.
Okay, so we could make a motion to have a leash ordinance that dogs must be leashed if you're leaving your property. Do I have?
This is Terry. I'm looking at section 21.09A.
Yes.
Prohibited conduct in there. Doesn't that cover what we're talking about? Animals running at large prohibited?
I don't think it includes, to me, that they have to be leashed.
Yeah, Terry, I agree that covers if it gets away from you. But what is happening here is that the dogs are loose and they're within that control of the person, and they're still either jumping on little ladies or scaring children or attacking dogs that they're in the immediate vicinity of.
Yeah.
That's where that, it's hard to tackle a dog, but if you have him by the leash, you can easily control him away from somebody. I think that's where that is going. And that's where the parks have a leash law. Animal running at large would still be a law broken in a park, but they still have a leash law, which means you have the leash tied to the dog, so it's in constant control. So you would have to, if this gets approved, when it moves on to village board, we would have to ask that they define what a leash is. There are communities that say within the owner's control. Well, that could be voice, that could be all kinds of things. Or
Mhm.
a leash, most leash laws include a 6-foot leash. So it means it's attached to a human being at all times while on public property.
Okay.
That would make it a lot easier because if you're driving around and somebody's just walking with their dog, it's not on a leash. And that's everywhere. And honestly, I think,
So if
I know we're going to get off topic, but number 7 would probably be taken care of if we had a leash law in place.
So 7
I
relates
could-
to
if I-
dogs harassing wildlife. Is that what that's about?
Yeah.
it's
Again, if
Randy.
dogs were on a leash, we probably wouldn't need to establish an ordinance for wildlife.
If I could jump in here, it's Randy. I'm a dog owner. I walk my dog. I use all the beautiful facilities we have. I've been a dog owner all of my life. But the only way to have a dog under control is to have them on a leash. And I think a leash ordinance makes it easier for the police. It makes it easier for the public. Everybody's got their dog under control. Everybody will feel safer. I think it's just where we have to go. And I think right now, everybody is out walking their dogs because everybody is home. But it is the appropriate time to deal with it. And the only way to be logical is to have an ordinance that says you have to have your dog on a leash and eliminate the gray areas.
Would someone like to make a motion to? Sorry, I have a bunch of static on mine.
So do I.
Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
hear you.
Okay. So if we make the motion to have in our ordinance that dogs have to be on a leash when they leave their property.
Their property, yep.
Lori, let me help you out here. This is Bill.
Yep.
Maybe the motion should be a recommendation to the village board to consider a village-wide leash policy for dogs and animals on public property.
Bill, I also, I know I'm a little ignorant. I'm kind of going on the recommendations of the dog owners. But I don't think signage and communication is as strong as it could be. So I think, we have, or the village board will have a decision to make, but I also think we should look at park signage and stuff. I live and back up to Raspberry Park. I don't see a sign there anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely something that we can look at. We have a staff.
I'd just like that.
We can address that.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that being a piece of it.
Bill, are you there?
I'm still here. I think we're just waiting for a motion.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can't see everybody. I lost the connection or something.
No, we're still good. We're still live, and it's, all of the committee members are unmuted at the moment. So,
Okay.
Again, I think we're just waiting for a motion, and you as chair can decide if you want to move on with or without a motion.
Okay. So, and you cut out when you were going. I heard the recommendation for the board.
I wrote it down. It says what Bill suggested was a recommendation to consider village-wide leash ordinance and then I added with signage.
I'll make that motion with a signage review.
And I will second that motion.
Who
Okay.
seconded it? Who made the second?
Randy?
Okay, thank you, Randy.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed, same? All right. Um,
I think, like Chief said, maybe 7 doesn't need any action based on that.
Well, and just to add, you know, if you, a wildlife ordinance, what does that entail? Are you gonna expect the police department to enforce dogs chasing squirrels? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry.
Right.
Of course we are.
This, it just doesn't make any sense.
So this is Bill. This was I believe this agenda item was one that was requested by a village board member to have a discussion on. And that's how it got to here. I don't know anything more about this request. I don't
The
know,
only
Lori, do you know anything?
I can give a little history on it. We at the police department for the past 6 to 8 weeks, we've been dealing with a gentleman who's been complaining because dogs are chasing cranes. So I've learned everything I possibly could know about cranes in the last 8 weeks because of this gentleman. And to a point where I even had to speak with the DNR wardens, and they do have a law that the wardens enforce with regards to wildlife. So if we absolutely needed something, I've got a direct number. Actually, the warden that's in this county, I trained as a rookie officer, so I've known him his whole career. So we could use him as a resource if we're actually having problems with cranes. Cranes are actually a bird that has caused a lot of nuisances in some communities, and the state of Wisconsin is actually looking at laws to be able to hunt them. So I think I understand, you know, the passion of wildlife. I get it, and it's great. I just don't. I think with the leash law, if that's being considered, and the dog running at large law that already exists, I think we've covered that. If we catch them chasing a wild animal, then they'd be not in control of a leash and be running at large. So I think that this is something that we really don't need action on. And that's just my opinion on it.
I completely agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Me too.
All right.
I'll put no action consensual.
We'll move on to number 8, which is the discussion and possible action regarding dog feces complaints.
If anybody has any ideas, I don't know what else to do. I've packed my car, the squad cars, with little dog bags to hand to people so they can clean after their dogs. I've posted it on Facebook on multiple occasions. I've talked to people on multiple occasions. We are not catching the violations, and people aren't reporting the violations. So what happens is people will report it after the fact to somebody else, and it doesn't come to the police department. The couple incidents that we did get at the police department, one person cleaned it right away, and the other person refused to clean it, so he walked away with its citation. I mean, that's the only options we have.
How much is the citation?
It's like $100.
Okay.
But he was just being stubborn. He didn't want to clean it, and he didn't want to be told what to do. And ultimately, he was cited, and so he has court, I think, pending in July. But so we've done everything that we possibly can. I've followed people around stalking dogs. I spent 2 days doing that. When they see us, they're picking up after themselves. The people that didn't see me, they were cleaning themselves. So about 95% of the people are taking care of their dogs. It's that 5%. And so we're doing what we can. Ludden Drive seemed to be a topic of discussion, so I went down and talked to the owners of those apartment complexes, And it's my understanding that they're fining their tenants if there's dog feces on their property. So they obviously know it's an issue. So I don't know what else to do except for just keep monitoring it and issuing citations and encourage people to call the complaint so we can take care of it immediately.
I walk around town. I don't know, do we have signage anywhere that says how much a fine is if you're not picking up your dog's feces?
I don't think it's on signage. It's been on, like I said, it's been on social media. It's been shared multiple times on different pages and there's been a lot of discussion. People are not happy about it. I think with the increase of people walking and dogs walking, you're just seeing more of it. That's just, more people, more problems.
I know the people I see, I don't know the people, I don't know them. And they're really rude and obnoxious if I point out that they are not picking up after their dog. So
Yeah.
I guess.
It doesn't surprise me. We had a gentleman that refused to clean dog feces off private property. It was on private property. The dog was caught. He was given a day or two to clean it, and he refused. And so he took a citation. I mean, he'd prefer to pay a ticket than to clean after himself. So
Does anyone else have any ideas?
I don't know if it might be worth looking at the signage and maybe some receptacles at the same time we're looking at the leash ordinance and signage, just to make sure there are some bags and some receptacles to make it nice and easy, and then continue as part of Bill's newsletter or even maybe the chamber help just continue awareness, because they're giving all dog owners a bad rap.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like the idea of having receptacles to throw it in. I mean, there's a lot of trash in our community, and there's nowhere to really throw trash unless you're on, Main Street and our new area, but otherwise, and I know just comments that I've received, I think it's where the Ice Age Trail is it Hickory Street?
Yep, and the Hickory.
I don't know if there's signage there, what the fine would be, and that would probably be a good place for a receptacle. You're picking up after your dog and you don't have to take it in your car if people are parking there. So,
well, it's on the boardwalk. It's just, I don't know. Is this something we for Bill? Maybe that's a question for you. Who do we send a recommendation for signage?
Maybe parks.
In regards,
The parks.
yeah, well, in regards to signage, depending on where the sign is and what it is on there, that's a budget item, and that's a staff, and staff can do that. I do want to, so it has to be the proper place. I mean, I know that we got receptacles out there along Main Street. We have doggy bags out everywhere. We'd have to come up with the language to post, and I just want to be careful about putting signs up everywhere. As it seems to me that people should know this as a dog owner, you should know the rules and regulations around owning a dog. And so there are some, like it's been mentioned, seems to be about 5% that's causing the issue. Question is whether or not signs are going to be effective. I'm not against signing, but those are things that we should consider. So we can bring it up tomorrow at the staff meeting as part of the chief and I's update to the group, and then we can get some thought on the staff level.
Okay.
We're going to continue to enforce it. We're looking for violations, and that's what we're going to continue to do. We've issued citations, talked to people about it, so we'll continue to post it on social media and hope that people catch on.
Okay. So Bill will talk to your staff and report back to us about the signs.
Yeah, we'll report back, and if you know we're moving in that direction, they'll most likely be up before your next meeting.
Okay.
I'll just put down that chief will report on signage after discussion of that meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Everyone's good with that?
Yep, I am.
Okay. Future agenda items.
I received 2 emails. The first one, I guess it's been brought up way before my time, but it was brought up to have a no outlet or dead end sign placed on Birchwood Pass. There's just a lot of traffic that goes in there, and it just creates kind of a cluster of traffic because they figure they could travel that way and there's no outlet, so it just kind of creates a traffic congestion. The person that requested this couldn't be at the meeting today. She asked that we put it on an agenda and discuss it for next meeting.
Sure.
The other topic is, it was brought up by a citizen who was concerned about the traffic flow on Bourbon Road, as far as heavy trucks driving up and down that road. I looked at ordinance, and ordinance changed in 2015 to adjust for the Highway 14 project. And so you can have heavy trucks from KP all the way to P as the ordinance is written. But my understanding in speaking to Jerry, that was supposed to be temporary. It was actually supposed to be from Ludden Drive to P heavy trucks. The rest should only be delivery trucks. So it's something that's written in ordinance right now. You know, heavy trucks can travel the whole length of Bourbon Road. We're having a lot of heavy truck traffic through there. So it's just another item that somebody would like for us to discuss and change the ordinance back to what it was back in 2015.
All right. Then we should probably schedule our next meeting.
Are we gonna just keep them on the first Tuesday of the month?
That works for me until the baseball schedule or anything would change, but Tuesdays have been good.
That works for me.
Lori, this is Kevin. I do have another agenda item for a
Oh.
future agenda item.
Okay, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, and I brought this up a while back, but I want to capture it more formally. It's related to post-flood. There was at least three guardrails that I know have not been replaced. One on Valley, 2 on Lewis. There is no guardrails at all over the culverts on Brewery Creek in those locations.
There's, just to add to Kevin's agenda item, there's also one down by Bear Park,
There is, okay.
kind of towards the Gurley Manor, right before you get to the ball field.
Oh, yeah.
Doug,
Doug, was that taken out during the flood?
It looked that way, yeah. The one side has just some chain up, and the other side it looks like it's down from the flood and it's just sitting there actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
And both
include
of
that as a third item.
Yeah, both of those locations I know had temporary rock that was placed in the washout areas, but they haven't been touched since 2 weeks after the flood. There hasn't been any improvements made to put it back to the pre-flood state.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other items? All good?
Good.
All good.
All right. So we're looking at then June 2nd.
at 7 PM.
Mhm.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah,
Yes.
Fine with me.
Okay.
Will that be a physical meeting or a virtual meeting like this one?
we'll have to kind of play it by ear probably.
Right.
Right.
Um, so we are all good.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
So
I'll
moved.
second it. Randy will second it.
Okay,
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Take
thank
care. all.
you.
Stay
Goodbye.
healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.